Welcome everybody. So we're here at Cheshire tonight. The reason why we're here is that we are here because Bhutan got together with Kaizer Chiefs to do a limited edition capsule collection. Something that's been in discussion for 3 years. It was a grueling process, not a bad one. I mean, when I use the word grueling, it wasn't like we're all going at each other and it was something bad, but it was like we all needed to understand what will drive the engagement.
Well, I think it was a cool initiative put together by Bhutan and Kaizer Chiefs. But just bringing a new aspect to football, like the streetwear and stuff. People would see us wearing it and like initially want to buy it. So, and I'm loving the outfit there as well. I think it's well put together. And I think the turnout at Cheshire is also perfect.
Well, I was shocked. I was really, really shocked. And more than anything, happy that seeing a local brand trusting another local street brand. That was quite beautiful for me because these size of deals, you usually find them with like an overseas type of company. And I'm so glad that they trusted a sort of a younger type of brand, even though they have like years in the game, but they gave them a shot and it really came out looking quite dope. So shout out to the Kaizer Chiefs team for trusting Bhutan, and they delivered at the end of the day. That's what's dope.
And so this today is a very, very iconic. It's a limited edition, 5 pieces. There's a windbreaker, there's shorts, there's socks, there's a reversible bucket hat, and there's a t-shirt. The t-shirt, what I like about it is it's a very celebratory piece which has the number which Ubabu Kaizer Motawung, who's the chairman of the team and also the brand, was the age that when he started Kaizer Chiefs.
I love the Bhutan brand because it's like it's a streetwear. It's really comfortable. You can wear it wherever you go, whether it's to the mall, whether it's just to the shops and stuff. So yeah, I love the outfit itself, all the clothing that they're providing. Yeah, it's really comfortable as well.
The capsule collection will be available 1st of November from Cheshire outlets. So every Cheshire store that's around the country, Cheshire online store, Kaizer Chiefs Village. The stuff will be available online as well as in physical stores. If you don't get it, hit us up, Bhutan X Kaizer Chiefs. Those are the hashtags.
Hey guys, we all deserve to shine, so here are a few tricks to get your Instagram feed looking proper. Litness. Always clean your camera lenses before taking pictures. Any non-abrasive surface will do. I'm talking even your shirt. So do like so and you'll be ready to go. Never ever blow on your lenses because your breath contains harmful acids, believe it or not. And these can damage your lenses. So use your shirt, use some tissue, use products that are designed for cleaning lenses, and you're sorted. Another thing is to always use the same filter. You don't want your feed looking like you're undecided and don't know what you're doing. I personally just adjust the contrast and brightness of all my pictures because I want them looking as natural as possible, but do you, boo? When uploading content, always consider that Instagram uses a grid that allows for 3 posts or pictures per row. So use some sort of sequence. I personally use the following. If my picture's wide, I first start with the wide picture, then it's followed by a close-up, then I'll go back to wide. Otherwise, if I start with a close-up, I go from a close-up to a wide picture, then back to a close-up. Setting a specific theme for a series of 6 to 12 pictures can also work in your favor. For example, I recently went to Mozambique and chose the color blue as my theme. This just helped me tell my story better and it looked more coordinated, so it's worth a try. But to use the same cropping method throughout. So if you have square photos, you always have square photos. If you have rectangular photos, then stick to those. Otherwise, white borders are cute. All you have to do is remember to be consistent. That's it from me, guys. Have fun planning your Instagram feeds. I'll see you there.
Man.
How's it, everybody?
Yeah, we're good.
Welcome to our creative discussion. Is everyone good? Is everyone safe?
Fresh.
We're
Good,
good.
Yeah, welcome.
good, warm.
I'll just do a little bit of an intro, then we can get into a discussion so that we don't waste time. I'll start with the youngest one, the young Kamo there, our social media guru. You know the 2000s. They like the social media. So you'll break it down for us. Then we'll come with the next youngest is Lerato there, brand activation guru.
Mm-hmm.
Just dealing with everything with brand. Then we have Ayanda. So I'm going with age. Then we have Ayanda from Butang. What's up, Ayanda? And then last but not least, the old man himself, Martin. Josie Mental,
Yeah.
he's been in this, you know.
What's up, family?
So I think I'll start with Martin. Let's talk about, because obviously we're talking about creatives, you know. Talking about creatives, it's quite a broad subject, you know. What do you think makes you a creative? Before we get into your part as Josie Mental.
I think it has a lot to do with listening to yourself and going with your urges. But when I was, I think, around 16, I remember in high school, I used to study free periods when people are writing their names on the wall on the board. I was drawing t-shirts. So it's always been something that is inside me, and it drives you. So being a creative is just about you allowing yourself to dig in yourself and come out with whatever you find. I don't know. That's just my perspective, because creativity obviously starts within, and then depending on what you're creating and what's its purpose in the world, stuff like that.
But how did the idea come about being Josie Mental? I think just break it down so that, obviously, for me, I'm just doing a different type of intro. I want people to introduce themselves differently. So how did that Josie Mental part come about?
It's a crazy story. I was in a history of arts class, go then, but UJ, and because I'd done the I think the syllabus, because I'd been to the same class twice, so I was kind of bored in that lecture, and I was doing graffiti, Kamola, Josie, and it was just too short. It was nice, but it was short. So it went from Josie to Josie Man. I was like, Josie Man, nah. Josie meant sounded nice, but not they didn't hit the spot. And then after a few minutes, the AL came through and it was Josie Mental, and I left that graph paper in my bag, carried on with my school. And then 2 years later, I found it lying around. I'm like, Konja did this. And then because during that the arts thing I was doing, I also studied calligraphy. So this lecture was teaching us about using the brush and ink, you know, like how the calligraphers from way back started. So that's how my logo came about. I just did one shot, remembering what I was taught in school, and then that was the beginning of the logo, and the journey started there.
Okay, that's kind of interesting, because obviously, just for maybe the people that obviously don't know what you're talking about, it's a clothing brand that's been around for a while, you know, as people, yo man, Josie Mentor. I'm not wearing Josie Mentor, but you know, it's inspired also a lot of brands. Kokasi, you know, I think you didn't even say that. It inspired a lot of brands. Kokasi, so yo, big ups to you.
True.
Let's go to Ayanda.
Thank you, sir.
Ayanda, are you
Yo,
good? Are you still alive?
I'm great, man. Huh?
Tell me about the journey of firstly you as a creative, and secondly of you being part of Bhutan.
For sure. Ayanda Njanya is my name. Soweto born and raised. I'm 36 years old. So my creative journey, gosh, it was a very tough one because, you know, I grew up in an era when, you know, South Africa was finding itself within democracy. Young people didn't exactly know what it is that they wanted to do. There weren't colleges that were offering anything that we wanted to do. So it's like, if you wanted to be a DJ, you needed to study sound engineering. If you wanted to be a creative strategist, there wasn't really anything, which is essentially what I am. So when I first worked at a crane manufacturing company out in Boksburg. The furthest thing to anything that I ever wanted to do, but the fundamentals of running a business and communicating within the business aspect is what I learned there, like working Excel, working PowerPoint, answering a phone, filing, all of that admin, like it made me a champion in that stuff. And then 2 years after that, I then joined what I would deem and call my industry. And in getting into like anything close or remote to creativity, and that was skateboarding. And I was in skateboarding for a long ass time. After skateboarding, I mean, a bunch of things happened concurrently, you know? So it was like, I started DJing, I was playing in places like Tokyo Star, started a hip hop session with friends of mine out in Pimville called 1808 Sessions. I was selling sneakers. I mean, I think, became the first person to even host something like this, which was like a 350 pair sample sale of shoes out in Pimville. And then continued to, you know, to work further and further in my industry, because I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I was like, a lot of things were touch and go. So I was managing a skate store. I was a host of a hip hop show. I was selling sneakers on the side. I was supplying Osmic with shoes at Ritual at the same time. And then I moved to Cape Town to work for Nike Sportswear. And that's when my like very keen sense of building qualitative and quantitative stuff when it comes to like survey, market like, how can I say, creating moments within culture, energy marketing, creating key moments within culture, like, and then offering insights to Nike South Africa at the same time, because it was like, there wasn't a brand that was being built around Nike Sportswear, and I needed to create energy for that and then bring people to the brand. Then I moved to Johannesburg back in 2010, was still working for Nike, and then I worked in advertising. I went back into retail. And all of this, I think the first time when I met Julian was in 2009. I was living in Cape Town. He was staying there too. Back to the city with the sales, we kept in contact. And in 2017, he hit me up offering me a position. And it wasn't even the position that I occupy now. And we just like kind of developed the whole thing into me being the marketing manager for Bhutan. And Bhutan is a pioneering streetwear brand in South Africa. It's been around for over 20 years. And what Bhutan serves to do is tell an African story, and also the story of the African story diaspora through the garments that we have, you know. So you'll see Pan-African colors on our garments. You'll see South African or even Southern African narratives being told through the story, whether that's through patterns, colors, just That's the whole ethos of what Bhutan is. And if people didn't know what Bhutan stands for, where it comes from, it's the rearrangements of the word Bantu, and also just reframing the word Bantu from where it comes from, because Bantu has a really bad, how can I say, connotation. So from like Bantu education, Bantustan, all of that, like, yeah, that's what Bhutan serves to do.
Whoa, that's a mouthful, man.
I know.
Hey,
I'm
you went
sorry.
in, Bob.
Sorry, guys.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You can tell you that you're a marketer, so you are marketing there. I can tell that. I can tell it.
I need to give you everything, yeah.
Yeah, you went in, Baba. You told a whole life story. Lerato Lefafa, corporate brand activation.
Context.
You got this. I get you. I get you. So as I move on to Lerato Lefafa, corporate brand activation or brand activation, you know, and branding as a whole, you know, and also that encompasses PR. So can you break that down? How you also fell into that industry? Because it's a very interesting one. People think Jaiba fella, but there's a lot more to it.
Yeah. So I am a communicator at heart. And in my career, I've helped a lot of brands bring their plans into execution, or bring their ideas into life through brand strategy, PR, marketing, activations, as you mentioned. And I've got 10 years experience doing that in different industries. I've worked in finance, I've worked in digital, I've worked in the beverage industry, and yeah, that's my background. With my last project, I had to focus on music, art, dance, and fashion, which are cultural aspects. And I've had to deal with a lot of creatives. And the good thing with me was that I could speak their language. So with corporate, the missing link is always the communication between creative and corporate, because they don't speak the same language. Corporate often thinks bottom line, and creative wants their ideas not to be compromised. So I was the link between the two for a number of years. And that was my place of happiness, if that makes sense. I could filter through all of the miscommunication, if that makes sense. And yeah, I've worked on a lot of exciting projects. And yeah, I think helping people understand what makes a brand successful gives me a lot of fulfillment. And I've also gone into building my own brands, which is quite exciting during a pandemic. And that's me in a nutshell.
Hojo, when I want to talk a lot about branding and communication and branding, that's dope. That's dope. Last but not least, young Kamo, social media king. So explain yourself, man. How did the social media thing grab you, and how are you involved?
Oh, okay. So my name is Kamuelo Moeti, also known as Kamo, and I help brands and artists and creatives and anyone and everyone you can think of communicate on social media. And I basically live online, and this started back in 2013 when South African hip hop was starting to boom, when all the artists were starting to come up and it was starting to get popular and into the mainstream. So there was us now trying to be the cool guys and having the latest music before everyone else. And for us to do this, we had to be on social media. And then we started, I can call it Facebook pages in a way, where we'd have these links and push them out and take someone's song, put it on data file host, and then push it out there. We didn't know it was piracy then. It was cool then. It was a thing of, you have the latest music, you're helping people get their music out there. But only then we found out later that it was piracy, but that's a story for another day. That's when I started social media. And then fast forward 5 years later, I got recruited by Tencent South Africa under VOOV. And then I started being a vlogger slash TV presenter, where I did a music show and would talk about the latest music and everything and anything that had to do with the latest music and all of that. So I started pushing now this whole music thing again on a TV scale, but it was still on social media because VOOV was a social media platform slash a TV channel. So I started pushing then, and then from there on, I got recruited into Click Media Productions, where I did social media for a few artists that were big then. And then from there on, I moved and started doing social media for Back to the City Festival. And then shortly after Back to the City Festival, I jumped onto the South African Hip Hop Awards. And then more recently, I did social media for Big Brother Naija Season 5. And yeah, that has been me as far as social media goes.
Hashtag this, hashtag that.
Nope.
Let's get to the meat of everything. Thanks for everybody for introducing themselves. I know I'm meant to introduce myself, but it's fine. I think you guys are more important right now because I'm just host. I'm just the host. Lerato, can you talk about identity as a brand? I think how important that is. Why do you think as a creative having an identity is so important? Because I think sometimes people misunderstand that.
So knowing what kind of an identity you have is a huge part of strategy, right? If you know why you exist, what you believe in, what you're about, then you know what to put out and people then know what to buy into. So with identity, I like that Ayanda mentioned that Bhutan sort of like tries to change the narrative of what Bantu stands for, and it's got a Pan-African identity. So then when they speak to their target audience, they know where to go, how to speak to them, and what to sell. So identity is a huge part of it. You've got to know if you want to be a modern brand, a global brand, a local brand, a Pan-African brand, so that you can speak to the people who are most likely to buy into whatever you're selling. So yeah, that's my take on identity.
That's very interesting. So I heard you say obviously strategy. I think obviously that's important. I think I wrote down here notes saying the 4 Ps, which is one of the biggest foundations of a brand. So Martin, as one of the oldest local brands that we have, how difficult was it to start first making a plan? How did you get around as a creative? Because you're a creative. Now you have to do a marketing plan. How did you get around that?
It was difficult because in my era, everything was new. Like we went like ground stuff. So like there's no one in front of you saying this is how you do it, or there's no one who you're copying from and saying, okay, he did it like this, maybe I can change this and this and this. So it was a bit difficult to like literally open all the gates and say, okay, I'm in a new territory now. What do I need? What do I need to adjust to when it comes to what the people want? How do I get it to the people? So it was I think the youth of today are more advantaged because of our existence before them, because all the stuff that we went through, they won't go through because they get to see us and say, okay, he did it like this. That was his flaw. Okay, Molo took it right. I'm going to do double of that. So in our, it was a blank page going forward, and you have to forge like a way and make things work. You fail 10 times. The 11th time you say, okay, I got it there, and you take it off and this is what I got it. And you keep learning. As the day goes, you meet new people, you meet companies that say, okay, you're doing this wrong. Let's set you up, let's hook you up with these guys. So every page is a story to tell in a way. I don't know if that
but you still didn't answer my question though. My question was, how did you now come up with a marketing plan as a strategist? Because as a creative, because a lot of creatives struggle with coming up with the strategy, coming up with how to work around the 4 Ps. How did you as a creative create those marketing plans?
I was blessed with being, I think, at the right time, at the right place, and being connected with the right people. Because when my brand started, I don't think even there was a local brand on TV. So my brand was pushed a lot on TV by artists because I used to give away a lot of free stuff. When I meet a new artist, I pushed 4 t-shirts. I know he's gonna wear them to shows and whatnot. So that was my way of getting my brand out there. Sometimes it calls, hey, your stuff is on SAPC One. I'm like, where? Who? I don't, you know. So everything was, I think the right word to put it is, I was fortunate to have people around me, and the energy that the brand brought about also had everyone interested in helping out. So I'd get calls and say, Marty, there's an opportunity to go, I need you to be there. And I jump on every opportunity. When someone says, I'm shooting a music video, I don't even ask how many people you got on that video. I'm just bringing clothes, putting it out there. So the plan was just to put out as much as possible. And this was before social media. So the only thing we had was TV and radio and a couple of magazines, you know? So for the time era that we were in, the obvious thing is that I had to know people, I understand? And everyone I meet, I have to make sure how to call this guy. When I met, I got a call from Dylan telling me about Ritual Stores. You need to get your stuff there. I went there the same day. When I got a call from Jiga saying, we got Pro Kid here, he wants to endorse you, I didn't hesitate. I went there, 9, 11 o'clock, I was there for a meeting. You know, like, so what I'm saying is, back then you had to jump on every opportunity to put yourself out there. And no matter what the odds are, if they stacked against you, you burst through the pile, you know?
But it sounds like, and I'll throw the next question to since we're talking on the local brand wave, to Ayanda. It sounds like a lot hasn't changed, or maybe I'm wrong. Ayanda, as also a local brand marketing person, how has the strategy now changed, or is it very similar? Are you guys still doing guerrilla marketing? And as a creative, what other creative ways have you guys gone around to push your product? We lost Ayanda.
Yeah.
I guess we lost Ayanda. Wow, since we lost Ayanda, I'll throw a question to Kamu. Kamu, the OG says that for the longest time he had to do a lot of guerrilla marketing. Social media has become a new way of doing guerrilla marketing. Can you just break down how that works? You know, for especially as you as a creative, how do you now they do new guerrilla marketing in your social media industry?
Oh, well, I think it's still the same thing. It's just that now the clothing would be on your screen as you scroll past your phone and just browsing your socials, because back then you'd have to walk to, I don't know, to Jiga and you'd have to take the clothes there. Whereas now you could just literally have everything on the screen. And social media has helped a lot with that, because not only do we now get a wider audience at a fraction of the price, or a fraction of the admin you'd have to do with you having to go all the way there to reach a certain number of people. Now with social media, you can double the numbers with less the effort from the comfort of your home. So that's basically how social media has helped elevate and basically push everything and anyone that is out there trying to get themselves out there, whether you're a creative, a clothing brand owner, a record label owner, or an artist. Social media has just helped us elevate the sphere to another level with less effort, basically.
So explain to me, man, because you're talking to OGs, you're saying less effort here. Break down for me what strategy goes into that guerrilla marketing. We used to use word of mouth, as Martin said, used to go use word of mouth, You go to a lot of people, SMSs sometimes. So tell us what goes into a social media as a social media guru. What goes into the strategy that you come up with to make sure that my brand trends for one, or people notice my brand?
Okay, so we've got what we call the influencers, which would be people like Lerato here, who you can now include in a strategy. And we're gonna say, okay, today we're waking up and we know that at 12 o'clock, we must put out a post with Lerato, and we've got our micro influencers who are also there and who are going to comment and share that picture that Lerato is going to put out. So our strategy for today is that, okay, Lerato has to wake up and wear a Josie Mental t-shirt and then just tell us how she just got introduced to this local brand and put out a post of her wearing this brand. And then from there on, we get our micro influencers, they jumping onto it and they basically amplify, which is what we'd like to call it, which is them now making noise on the post itself. So, and then now from there on, which by what I meant by saying less effort, instead of you going from place to place and driving there, going with who there, now you are just sitting at home. So that's where the less effort part comes in. You're sitting at home and you're controlling everything with your hand, because now we've gotten how to put out this post. We've gotten the other people to comment, and then just like that, people know about the brand, people see the brand. She's left a website link there. Now we are directing traffic to our website. So it all starts with you planning, okay, she's gonna put out a post, what the post is going to be, what time is the post going to go out, who's going to comment on it, who's going to say what the caption is, where is she directing the traffic, and then traffic takes them to website takes them to buying, and then just like that, they have a Josie Mental t-shirt, and no one moved. Everyone was just in the same position in a space of 15 minutes. And just like that, you've got your brand out there.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. So that means I'm going to Lerato now. As a communication person, as a brand activation person, social media has played a huge role. And as a creative, right? So explain to me in terms of budget now, and because I've always had an issue with influencers don't have call to action. So how do you guys weigh that? How do you guys now make sure that you got the right influencer, you know, who can have a call to action for your brand, you know? And how do you balance your budget? Because now, before, the budget was spent a lot on obviously different markets, like your TV, radio. Now there's Camo now. And there's Camo, there's people like you who's an influencer. So explain to us how in corporate do you guys break down that budget, and what's the reason behind the new breakdown?
So with digital, we call it a digital strategy or a digital plan, right? And underneath that, social media will fall there. And there'll be paid media, and then there'll be influencers as a separate plan, right? So in the pandemic, I saw the brands that I was working with sort of put more money towards digital plans than they did actual traditional marketing plans, because nobody could leave their houses and people spent more time on their phones, right? So in terms of picking influencers, the most important thing is picking influencers who are in alignment with your brand and its objectives. So a person who's into, let's say, you can't have a person who doesn't drink alcohol on a plan that's all about alcohol. You can't have a white person talking on Black issues type of thing. There needs to be some sort of synergy when you pick your influencers, and how you allocate budgets or influencer budgets to those individual influencers is based on their actual engagement. Instead of their followers, you check their engagement rates, and that's always been a more reliable measurement in that space. So yeah, I hope I answered your question. There has to be alignment. People are not stupid. Like, I, for one, talk about travel and skincare. I can't now start talking about something that's not within those spheres. People would be like, Jean Lerato, like, what's up, yo? Like, come on now.
So it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle thing.
Yeah, like influencers for me are mouthpieces. You know, like they are. You'll find that a person with 5,000 followers has more influence than a person with 50K followers, because they trusted and they've built a rapport or loyalty with their audience, you know. So that's why I don't personally look at following when I put together an influencer strategy or an influencer plan. I focus more on thought leaders. Like if this person were to say they believe in such and such a brand, will they people buy into it or not? So that's that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Going for you, I'll go to Martin. The reason why I started with Martin, obviously, because I wanted to hear the old school way and the new way, school way, so we can compare the two. So Martin, now, moving forward, now your guerrilla tactics have changed a bit, I presume. So
yeah.
what budget have you now put in to make sure that you cover that Kamo into your thing, and how as a local brand, how have you shifted and make sure that you're relevant in the current market?
Obviously, like the adjustments have been made according to reach, or who are we looking at, and where are those people? What do we want from them? At first, it was different because we were just like literally shooting everywhere and expecting something to get hit. You know, like when we TV, you wouldn't know who's watching what and how will they know when to get the brand, how to get the brand after seeing it on TV, how do I access it? So difference more has been very drastic, and obviously as a brand, we adjust to these changes. I may cause like this other a dude met we spoke on Facebook, is like, no, you know what, I need to hook you up with this young girl who's got a huge following. And then we spoke with this guy, did on the phone, okay, link me up, you link up, you ask prices, you do all those things, you send whatever merchandise you wanted to promote for you, and it happens just like that. So I think the way the young guys are doing it now is much more faster, right? And then the OGs, finally, sometimes a bit of skepticism, you know, how would that, no, I can get you like 20,000 views today. You're like, okay, 20,000 views, how's that gonna translate into sales, you know? So I don't know, man. We need the guys right now. They are very vital for the old school brands, and to move forward into the future. I don't think anything is possible without these phones. We need these to push everything that we do, especially now. Now with the pandemic, the riots, the whole world is literally falling apart. The phone world is growing much faster. Wow.
I did OG. I hear you. I've centered my whole thing of creatives around the 4 Ps. Obviously, the price, product, promotion, and placement. Lerato, as obviously, you're gonna have a lot of these hard questions. You're gonna have a lot of these hard questions. But as a brand person, you know, do you feel that the 4 Ps are still relevant? And what do you think? If not, what do you think has fell off, or and what has been replaced? And how, as a brand, have you now being able to adjust to those changes for the 4 Ps? Because I know since days of days, the 4 Ps have been the fundamentals of marketing.
I think the 4 Ps are still very much relevant. Like when you look at a branding plan or a marketing plan, they're forever there. For example, if you like, everybody starts with a product, right? And they try to get it in the hands of the people they're trying to attract or buy into this thing. So first of all, you need to know if your product is in demand, what price to sell it at, can the people you want to attract afford it, where those people hang out. That's when promotion comes in. You don't go, if you're selling a brand that needs to live kokas, you don't go into the suburbs and then promote it there. You don't go on to platforms that don't reach the people kokas. Do you get what I'm saying? So, and then placement, still very much there. I think the one change that happened was that with product placement of big brands, it no longer happens guiding music videos or whatever, as much as it used to back in the day. Right now, it's like what Gamo and Martin said earlier on, they collaborate with people who are on social media, content creators or influencers, and get their products seen in spaces where it can thrive, right? And get them the returns that they want. So the 4 Ps are still very much relevant. And I think digital has overtaken mainstream media like radio and TV, because like I said earlier, data is where it's at. It's more accessible. And that's what people are more tuned into, because now you find that people are having more fun with creating their own content, consuming content online on social media platforms, because why? Their friends and families are there. It's a way of connecting. It's an easier way of connecting, and having a way to express yourself. So I think those are the small changes, but the 4 Ps are still very much relevant. You're on mute.
I saw. My finger was too slow. Speaking about traditional media, I know you touched a bit of it, and you're saying that corporates are moving away from spending money on traditional media. But I realized that traditional media still has a huge influence in certain markets. Especially people like, obviously, clothing, alcohol has a huge. Traditional media has a huge influence, but what other role do you think traditional media still plays in certain products? Because this is Mzansi, we have not everybody has data, a data or data.
I'm at that.
Well, I think traditional media is a bit, it's still relevant, but not as much as it was back then. Because you can see ads being played more on YouTube before certain types of content more than it is placed on TV, and it costs a bit more. It costs a bit less to place it on social media or digital platforms, right? But in terms of where traditional media is still relevant, I think when it comes to matters of social issues, alcohol, not so much, because there's a ban right now. Let's see, what have I seen? I think when I've seen a lot of pain medication ads that are still very much traditional. I've seen a lot of sports ads. I've seen, I think sports is still thriving. Hey? Sports is still thriving in terms of traditional media. I've seen, what else?
Insurance, like I see a lot of insurance.
Like things that have to do with quality of life, right? Are still thriving. Like industries that have to do with health, mental wellness, physical wellness or fitness. Those industries are still thriving. In terms of lifestyle, I see a bit of a change in that they rely on more digital or social media platforms. I think that's where it's more palatable.
So that means my next question will definitely go to Kamu. As you heard the guru there, the brand guru saying that you guys are taking over, with obviously with the rise of digital, it means that there's a lot of people doing it. How do you make sure that you stand out, as a creative? What makes you stand out? What makes me want to come to Kamo to do my social media? You know, maybe Martin is like, yo, man, I'm an OG. I can't do this shit. I need you to do my social media for me. How do you stand out? What makes you stand out as a creative?
Well, the most important thing that will help you stand out and basically be original on social media is being true to yourself and being yourself, and not trying to imitate what someone is already doing, what you're already seeing out there. Originality is key, if I may put it that way, and you basically just being yourself and just putting content that is true, if I may say. Well, I'm sure 50% of the content out there isn't real, I could say, but just try to put content that is real and try to basically paint a picture which is reality, and then this will make more people get more inclined to you and to relate more to you, because you are real. What you're putting out there is real. It's not every morning eating breakfast at a 5-star hotel. Every morning you are changing locations. You are here, you are here, you are here. So just be true to yourself and just be original. That will make people be inclined to you, and basically you are relevant to them. That's how you become relevant. That's how people come to you. Be original, stay true to yourself.
Okay. So just keep doing you. That's quite important. Martin, I'm gonna ask you a very, very tricky question for you, man. How do you now, because you've been in the industry for a while, how do you now ensure that your brand equity grows all the time? Because there's so many now local brands, like there's so many. So how now you bring that brand equity for yourself as a local brand? You know, that's part one. Part two of your question is, which I'll go around the table with it, is how now do you balance price with brand equity? I know it sounds a bit tricky, but how do you balance that? Because now Umuntu is like, Gucci, spend it this much, and then when I'm you're selling your local brand for 1,000 rand. Why are you selling for 1,000 rand? You know?
Okay.
So how? Yeah.
Okay. Since the beginning of Josie Mental, I've been known for being original, just like Mama says, right? So with my thing with longevity and durability of the brand and the sustenance, the more for me personally, because I studied arts, right? So the journey that I'm on is two paths that are parallel to each other. So it's art and fashion, right? So if for most brands, it's a commercial thing for them. They just want to make money. But then that train runs and stops at some point. But with art, you focus on the artist's life until the life ends. You know what I'm saying? So that's the story that I'm selling to my audience. You know, if you meet Josie Mental today, you're bound to want to know what happened before. So I'm selling a lifetime story of an artist and saying to you, in 2010, this is what Josie Mental was doing, and the timeline keeps on going and going and going. And with my audience, I don't expect someone to say, I'm no longer interested in Josie Mental. It's because my life has to be as interesting to keep the audience glued and say, what is it up to next? You know what I'm saying? So with I've met a lot of people that say, yeah, but I won't come up as I have, man. You know how the ghetto thing goes, you know, expectations, people thinking, nah, he's gonna run and stop at some point. But that's not the case. With me, in 2011, I met one guy who was comparing me to, I don't know, Nike or Gucci, and he was saying, but I'm thinking a keeper when I could go and buy Gucci. My thing was to them, okay, but dude, this story is about Gucci. Do you even know it, or are you following because someone else wears Gucci? So with me, the story is not just about fashion and being seen on the streets. It's about the guy who's making the fashion, the artist. So when you're buying a Josie Mental piece, you're not just buying a clothing item. you're buying my expression as an artist. If I was a Da Vinci, let's say in Da Vinci's era, Da Vinci is a painter. I'm an artist. I draw, I paint, I do all those things. Brand that I'm selling to the people is clothes. So I put my art on the clothes. And when someone buys Josie Mental, at some point in my mind, I think there's somebody out there who's keeping a piece that I sold in 2007 because that was the one item that I made that stands out from everything else that I've ever made, you know? So if I'm selling you a jacket that I made today, the value of the jacket will keep on growing because it's the only jacket like that in the whole world. You know what I'm saying? So the way I'm keeping the value and the equity is just to keep on being me and expressing through what I'm selling. And obviously with mature, I used to sell a t-shirt for $50 because I wanted to put it out. Now I'm not new, focusing more on the ones that I already have. So I make calls and say, hey, you know, I've got new stuff coming out, but I want you to have it first. And I'm only making 10. So the 10 people that I call already feel special because they are special. An artist calls you and says, I'm making 10 paintings and I think you should be one of the 10 people that get to hang these on your wall. So for now, it's about bridging the gap between art, fashion, and business. So I'm in the fashion of doing art and making money.
I can tell you're an arty-farty person. Your answers are like arty. You know, you can actually, from everyone's answers, you can tell what they're doing. It's so interesting. It's so deep. Like I'm listening, I'm like, this guy's an artist. He is.
The thing is with me, there's nothing else that I've ever done with my life. When I left school, my mom asked me, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna study? I said, I'm an artist. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna live the life of an artist. That's what you must expect from me. Which direction are you taking? I said, okay, I'm gonna go with the foundations of art, are obviously drawing, design, and all of that. And then as you move forward, like with my story is very interesting and it's very artsy. That's why I sell myself as an artist more than a fashion designer. Yeah. So when I was in tertiary, I was in a graphics design course. I had my friends in fashion. I get it free, I go to them and I check their stuff. I'm like, shit, I think I'm doing the wrong course, you know? And my interest from this side grew. And then because I'm an artist, I could gel the two together and say, okay, I love fashion, but I'm gonna have to keep my essence which is art into the fashion so that it doesn't die. Because if I'm just selling clothes, that's it's cool now, you know? But as an artist, people always expect to see new things because they're following the story more than they're following the clothes, you know? So one day I'm gonna say, I've got a show coming up, and then people are expecting to see a catwalk, models and whatnot. To your surprise, you come there, there's a gallery full of paintings of hoodies and jeans done in some way that you've never seen. You know what I'm saying? So with my story, it's art first, fashion second, and then the rest will take a
I hear you, bro. I hear you, OG. Come on. Yeah, since the OG was talking about studying, I see there's a lot, like every time I log on, I see digital marketing, digital this, digital that. Tell me about, as a creative, what other study things do you add to your tools to make sure that you are up to date what's happening? Because digital world changes very quickly. So what are you guys as creative studying? And how do you keep up with what's happening? Because hey man, it's rough out here.
Well, to bridge that gap, there's a lot of courses that I personally had to take just to stay ahead of the pack, if I may put it that way. And the beauty about digital marketing and social media is that it's all online and then most of it is free. So what I had to undertake, there's what we call digital, Google Digital Garage. There's a lot of courses on there. There's the fundamentals of digital marketing. It's also a free course. It's also offered by Google. There's Twitter Flight School, which I also did. It's also free. It's offered by Twitter, as the name says. And then there's also Google Ads Display. It's also offered by Google. So everything is basically free. Everything is just out there. You just need to Google it and then you'll see what's there and what happens on each and every platform. There's also what we call Facebook Blueprint, which is basically the blueprint of Facebook. It teaches you the back end of things, and all of this is all free. And if social media is a career that you want to do, or social media is something that you want to excel in, these are the things that I'd say one should look into, because as I've said, they are all free, and you basically just need your data and your time, and then you can just run with these courses. And trust you me, by the end of the courses, you would be a step ahead of the pack when it comes to you managing your social media platforms and you knowing how to run social media, how to do Google ads, how to do Facebook ads, and basically how to market yourself.
Okay, that's a mouthful, man. I see that. I see Ayana's back. But that's a mouthful, Kamo, you know, talking about a lot of things that you're obviously studying. But explain to me, because you're saying a lot of stuff like Google Garage, Google what, and how much as a creative do you have to invest in that? Because I think people think you guys, the Ama 2000s, just pick up the phone, you just tweet and you say cool things, and then I'm a digital marketer. So explain to me what makes it a career. What makes you a career?
I would say it's the time that you invest in it, because yes, you are very right. Some people, I'd say they get it very easy and lucky, because you don't know what they could be doing, but then you see they have thousands of followers on Instagram, and you can see that they're not even using this platform to monetize it, because there are no paid promotions, etc., but these people are very, very famous on Instagram, and you've never even heard of the person, but they've got 120,000 followers. So I guess it's the time that you invest in it. It's how serious you take it, and basically it's you putting yourself ahead of the pack, which makes it a career. By that, what that means is that you put in the time, you go to all these platforms, you research, you see what other people are doing out there, you enroll yourself for these courses. Remember that Google, these classes are basically in American times, so the time zones are completely different. You have to be up at 3 a.m. for an online class. That's you investing your time, that's you losing sleep and basically wanting to make it a career.
Okay, I see. No, I had to ask that question because I know there's a lot of people always come to me, man, I want to be I'm like, man, put some time in yourself, that's very important. Since I heard Ayana's back. I'll hold this next question to him. Shame, the poor guy. He's been there, I didn't see him. Ayana, talking about studying and stuff like that, I asked Martin about brand equity, right? And obviously pricing, balancing the two. How are you guys at Butang been able to balance that also? Because I think that's also very important. And how are you guys, because you guys are now a commercial entity, a huge commercial entity. How are you guys making sure that you stay in that lane?
Look, man, so what was happening in 1999 and what happened in 2010 and what's happening now are all differently, like those times are completely different, and you always got to humble yourself to the times. Always stay a student of what is happening around you, but also because of the infrastructural and knowledge or know-how that we haven't accumulated over the years. When you no longer have the texture, tone, and nuances of your audience, because we survey 16 to about 25 to be realistic. because streetwear is the uniform of the young. It's almost like rap music, you know, at some point you just don't have the lingo. And so you bring in younger people with the experience, well, not really the experience, with the energy and the passion. And what you do, you connect them with what you've accumulated over these years and you go, let's ride. So what they'll do is that they'll serve as your foot soldiers. They'll go around and like find the same people who have the same interests within that community that you serve, right? So if you look at the example of what Kanye West did with like the kids out in New York and Harlem, him and Virgil Abloh picked out this like really cool bunch of kids who are now also running a bunch of things. So with the rise of Pyrex, they did Ian Connor, they got A$AP Rocky and his friends, sort of like the same thing that we did, Pigo, myself, and MK when we opened up, what was that place? Empty Space in Braamfontein, where you've got an umbrella where you drive all these creatives through and there's all these like outputs. And that's what brands or anyone needs to do. You know, you go, cool, my time is done to be in the front, but I've got all this knowledge and I've got all of this experience. Let me bring in those who can run the next frontier, because when we were riding and this thing was a thing, we were happy to go to YFM and like make noise or be featured on YMag or what was the other, SL magazine or whatever, or even be written about in the Tonight section of The Star. Right now, that doesn't matter to Kamo and his world. It's because that's who we're servicing right now. So what you do is you take a Kamo because he understands the digital world and you're like, hey, listen, I know you want to get out there. I've got everything for you. Let's do it. You pay the person and your brand then stays relevant for yet another like 10 years, you know? So that's what we've done. The guys who are above me in the company are obviously older than me. And I came with the know-how of like knowing how to speak to the worlds on either side. So like I can speak to the audience that came before and the audience that's coming after. And so that's how you maintain brand equity, you know, always knowing how to speak to your audience in the right tone, in the right voice. The nuances need to be right because, I mean, lit is no longer a word as far as I know now. What is the new one, you know? So, yeah. And then when it comes to things like the 4 Ps, you know, or the pricing, look, it depends on where you see yourself as a brand. So when we said the goal is to be in Shesha, sports scene, it means that you're looking at what Nike is offering. Firstly, what's your quality? And if you're gonna go and say your basic tee is coming in at $350, what is North Face's you know, quality offering, and what is their brand promise when it comes to that basic t-shirt? Are you able to, you know what I mean? It's like you look at your supply chain. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into factoring in what your price is, but it depends again, you know, where you're placed, because if you're just doing distribution, you can really price a basic t-shirt at $199. So that means you manufacture, it sits on your own platform, boom, you're selling it from your own platform. But if you're distributing to take it to another door, it gets a little bit trickier. So when it comes to pricing, you've got to be very sensitive to your audience as well, because it's like, are you serving an LSM of 5 to 7, or are you serving an LSM of 2 to 5, you know? And people to 2 to 5, they'll rather go to Jet sometimes than to go to a Bhutan. And if they go to Bhutan, how many times do they come back to us? Are they coming back to us twice a year, 3 times, every season, which is 4 times? It's things like that you've got to factor. But also it comes to what it is that you're offering, because you got to tier items. You know what I mean? So you got to go, okay, cool. I've got a basic items that people can constantly get. If a guy is aspirational and wants to get into the brand, can he buy this jacket? Maybe not, but can he buy socks? Yes. How much are socks? Socks are 99 Rand. So you've always got somebody who can always buy into the brand. You have a basic t-shirt for $250, but you can also have something where somebody who wants to always be seen hanging out at the Royale, or they want to go to Paul's in Melrose or whatever, you know, they want to buy something like this, you know, or the student's going to go, I'll buy 2 items, one expensive, one affordable. So it's always things like that that you've got to factor in. And this is a conversation that internally as a brand, you're going to have as marketing, you're going to have as sales, you're going to have as creative, because everything matters within the steps of the company. Because if someone is conceptualizing the range, I, as the person who's marketing the range, I'm creating the communications for the range. I've got to know what the colors, what's this ribbon called? What's this? It's an applique. Okay, cool. Explain to me what's an applique, because you telling CMT, you guys have your language, but I need to be brought into the process of that language as well, so that we can all understand it. And then, I've got to justify somehow, even in communication, why $8.99 is $8.99. So the long and short of it is that everything in the company works in tandem, as well as like what you take to market. You've always got to, this becomes external factors that work into it. So yeah, a lot of things go into making a product work internally within a brand and an organization. And when you go to market with that brand and product or service. I hope I answered that question.
You caught up to everybody. That's why I had to let you speak, man. So you can actually... Let's go back to Lerato. Corporate, and I'm gonna, after this, obviously, this is gonna be the theme for Martin and Kamo and Ayanda. You as a corporate, as somebody who's worked with corporate, how has corporate assisted brands and people like Kamo, and how do you guys now link the two worlds? Because obviously there's a corporate lingo, the whole jargon in the corporate world, and there's the street language, and I've seen there's a lot of now of the two worlds coming together. How has that helped, obviously, in the corporate world, and how can other brands also who might be street speak better with the corporate language, if I'm making sense?
I get you. Like, the two languages are very different, and if there aren't people who can condense, or rather make the communication between the two worlds a bit more understandable, then there's an issue. So in corporate, you have teams, man, that are dedicated to different departments, right? And you enlist the help of people who can understand what you're saying and then translate it to the next person. So through collaboration also is how you bring ideas to life in a way that will make sense to the audience that you're speaking to. I've seen a lot of corporates hire more creatives because they understand the world that their audience is living in, either short-term or long-term, on short-term or long-term projects. I've seen corporates hire younger individuals if they're trying to speak to younger people. I've seen corporates hire more Black people on teams. Like, you'll have a dedicated team on specific projects so that they can make sense out of whatever you're trying to bring about. And I like what everybody has said, because it falls into sort of like a brand strategy. And like Ayanda said, there are a lot of moving parts. So with Martin, he started with a brand story. Every brand, whether corporate or independent, has a brand story. Like, every brand has a background. There's a reason why things start or exist. And having a brand story helps you become more relatable. And when you speak to the audience that you're trying to speak to, or when you're trying to get people on board to buy into whatever objectives you have. And then there's a brand promise. I know, I think it was Ayanda and Martin who spoke about this, but you've got to have passion. Be driven by heart and mind. You've got to have quality, like always deliver on what you promise and do it well. You know what I mean? You've got to collaborate, because I might have access to a certain audience, whereas it's like in a vacuum. But if I collaborate with a Martin Gamo or Yanda, that reach might widen. Do you get what I'm saying? And I might convert people who didn't know that my brand existed into buying into what I'm selling. Do you get what I'm saying? So collaboration is very key. It's collective genius. And it helps you walk through doors that you never knew existed or never knew the potential of. And then there's a tone. I think someone touched on tonality. When you have a brand, you need to understand how to speak to the people that you're speaking to. Are you an aspirational brand? Are you an inspiring brand? Are you an educational brand? What are you? Are you an entertaining brand? Then from there on, you can tap into spaces that you wouldn't have normally tapped into. So understanding the whole landscape of where you're trying to operate and collaborating with people in those spaces helps you reach a wider market and achieve your objectives.
Yeah. Branding always gets me excited. I won't lie. I always get excited with branding because there's so much to it. There's so much to it. And the way you're breaking down about inspirational, obviously, whether your brand is premium, whether your brand is paid for money, it's really important that people understand that when they're going to reach a corporate person, branding communication. Because I think a lot of people get it wrong. They go to a brand and it's just talk anyhow. Hey, but I'm street. Okay, you're street, but who's your target market? Who are you talking to?
And what's your value?
What's your values? Yes, and I'm happy that you spoke about that. So let's go to Martin. In terms of corporate, man, how have you collaborated? What have you collaborated that, and what's the success behind the collaboration with corporates? Because I know people shy away from that because they call it selling out, and So how have you collaborated, and how has that made you a success?
When I started, a lot of all these new things that are happening, the knowledge was little to us, I remember chilling with, it was me, Token, and Boandi. That's when the time when they were introducing the Pro Ink sneakers, and then I was like, okay, what's happening here? The two brands, and then Chaba explained to me that you need to align yourself with that reflect what you're selling, and then we did a lot of work, a lot of TV stuff, but not with companies that are maybe, let me say, outside fashion or outside on, because I was avoiding misinterpretation. Most people would say, when it was mental, like, what do you mean? Like, no, the image that you're selling now is becoming, it's not what you used to sell. I'm like, but no, no, company, so communicating with the people as well was a mission. I don't know how to put it, but it was hard to like a bigger company because you have this fear of being swallowed, I know a lot of guys that literally fell for traps and they couldn't get out of it. So with me coming, I avoided signing papers that I don't understand, number one. I'd ask questions. What are you interested in? What's in it for me more than you? Because you guys have been here, you know how to make money. You can spin me off and give me 10 grand. 5 months down the lane, I don't have my company in my hand, So knowledge was important with finding what are you putting yourself into. One, because those brands, I won't even mention names, but I've seen more than 6 labels get swallowed because they wanted to go corporate and say, hey, I want to work with so and so. And that those guys I don't know, but you know what I'm saying though. I don't wanna.
I get you. I get you. You don't wanna shoot. You don't wanna shoot. You know, it's fine. Don't shoot at anybody. I get you.
But it's it's because there's youth coming up, right? Not I always preach these things. Because I'm very, my art is a purpose, right? And I believe of ours, we're the first free minds to say, okay, when the company saw without any blockages are there, it's because you don't know, right? So I've always preached this thing of protecting our intellectual property as youth, because most people just want to make money, and then you make money. Let's say you make 1 million this year, a brand only. And then 6 years down the line, somebody's making 1 billion from your age, just because you didn't understand what you're signing into. So on that level, I would really emphasize, because we want to see our brands reach 100. I want to know, if I asked you guys, which Black brand has ever celebrated 100 years in front of you? You'd probably take an hour to think of.
Hi, this guy. we only have one that's sitting on 23 or 22 years. So almost there.
So
almost there.
We're getting there. But it has a lot to do with holding on to what you created. You understand? And knowing the value of it, not now, but in the long run, when I'm creating this platform.
So from what I'm hearing from you, right? Sorry for disturbing you there. From what I'm hearing from you is that you are making sure that whatever corporate or whatever collaboration that you have makes sense for your brand and doesn't damage the image of your brand.
Most importantly, it doesn't bind me to something that I cannot get out of freely.
Okay. No, I hear you. Talking about collaborations, because talking about collaborations, Ayanda, you guys did a big collaboration, man. I was very angry about this collaboration because you did it with a team that I don't like.
What do you mean now? What do you mean?
I was not happy, man. How do you choose the wrong team to do a collaboration with, man?
Hold on. Isn't the same team going to the CAF Cup or something?
We're talking about the biggest team in Africa, which is Pirates.
No, relax. We're not going to a final this weekend.
We're talking about the biggest team in Africa, not the third biggest team, the biggest team in Africa. But anyway, tell us about the collaboration with. That was a huge one, man. Firstly, because there is so many layers to that deal. So explain to us how did that firstly start and the layers about it? Because the reason I'm talking about the layers, because I understand that firstly, it's a sports brand, one.
Yeah.
Two, there's also individual players that have different deals with different clothing brands, you know?
Yeah.
You know? And then thirdly, there's also the fans. So how did you guys break that down? You can see I'm a sports fan, bro. I do my sports.
Yeah. Look, so when I joined Bhutan, that whole deal was being discussed. It took a while, bro. I got in and they were like, yo, look, we're talking to Kaizer Chiefs about doing this thing. Let's see how it goes. I'm like, wow. Now here's what's nuts. They approached us for the collab, right? And we were like, what? No ways, you guys can't be serious. Now, obviously, the back and forth is to work out the nitty-gritties, royalties, blah, 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 all of that stuff, because as when two parties come together, the reason why collaborations aren't easy, they are nice when they have dropped, let me tell you. But prior to that, because the thing is, there are now two separate bank accounts that have to be, you have to go, are we consolidating? What are we doing? You know what I'm saying? So it's like things like that. Who's taking the risk of production? Who's taking things are being produced all the way till they land into the country, it's either you go, are we both taking the risk, or is one party taking the risk? Because if one party takes the risk, it's like, okay, cool. That means we have a different royalty discussion, right? And then it's like, okay, cool, because these are athletes. I don't know if you know how bad a regiment of an athlete is. They can't be seen out at a certain time before games or whatever. So it's like, if you have them, count yourself very lucky. So there's like those kind of things that we had to deal with. But once the thing was signed, it was like, all right, cool. You send the designs over to Chiefs and they go and look at like 20 things and they chop it down to 10 and you have to agree on 5. Now, all of that must have taken at least about a year. And then you produce and then the stuff lands and you go, okay, cool. I then sit in the room and we talk about how we're going to build the story. Like you say, you got to consider the fans. The fans of Kaizer Chiefs mustn't get angry. Why mustn't they get angry? Why all of a sudden are we making clothes and these clothes are from a streetwear company? Who are these guys, right? We've also got the same thing that we need to make sure we're appeasing our people because they're going, sports, football, soccer. Guys, relax. So the whole thing had to be very well adjusted, but it made sense because Kaizer Chiefs is an authentic South African story, right? So it's not too far from our realm. It makes sense. It's a South African story. It's a cultural and a heritage thing for South Africa. And that's our storytelling anyway. So that's good. We ticked off that box. And now it goes to the fans because the fans got to go, can we wear these things anywhere at the stadium and off the field and do the play, you know? And that's why we had to make the items look almost sporty, but also can live out of sports. So the windbreaker, the shorts, the socks, the reversible bucket hat, and the t-shirt. And also digging deep into the heritage of the club in itself. So you don't lose people who follow the brand for too long or are very entrenched in the culture of Kaizer Chiefs. So yeah, man, we sat and we looked at what Kaizer did when he was a player, what the club is about, what items could be favorites for fans, so that even if we've missed you with the t-shirt, we're definitely catching you with the windbreaker. If we miss you with those, you like the bucket hat. And again, remember we talked about price. I think the bucket hat and the socks were the most affordable. So you had to play into those things as well. And then eventually we went to market and it was very, very well received from both streetwear as well as Kaizer Chiefs fans, as well as the players. The players, I mean, we all know how soccer players are, and this is the world over. They sometimes have the ability of introducing trends, and they tend to be the most fashionable people, athletes, let's just say. Let me not just say soccer players, you know. Dennis Rodman, crazy hairstyles. Shoes Mushwe, Nabobanbani. They also used to introduce certain styles when it came to like, Lucas Radebe, let's not go far. Is that like crescent thing, you know? That was a thing. So for soccer players, for them, this was a breeze. All they wanted to do was shoot in the product, look good, and have it. And for us, really, it was, again, you know, as two businesses coming together, how do we make the relationship work from the back end? And that was a breeze, you know. I mean, the most difficult was for us to click into that juggernaut, because working with a big organization is a huge thing. And this doesn't come with just being with Kaizer Chiefs. It's like when we were working or started working with sports scene, there's so many things. And sorry to jump to another thing. Packing product into a box comes with its own things. They send you instructions. We need a box of these dimensions. There needs to be labels on like 4 sides. It can't exceed this weight. And if you miss this date into getting the stuff collected or into the DC, they send it back or they don't take it. So this is why a lot of people and brands don't get along with corporate, you call it, because the language of a small independent brand is just like, oh my God, yeah. You pack a couple of t-shirts and you throw them at your friend's store, they sit on the rail and you're excited. That's your supply chain. The supply chain when it comes to a Kaiser Chiefs or a sports scene is way different. It's way different. If you've taken pictures for a lookbook, you need to size them at least 8 ways. If you think about it, it needs to sit on a banner on a website. It needs to sit on something on this thing. It needs to sit on this thing. And now if a small brand doesn't have a dedicated graphic designer, you fail, because usually a small brand has the brand owner and maybe a friend helping out. Does the friend know how to take photos? Does it know how to, size images? So that's where a lot of things or a lot of brands tend to not be around Martin when he was saying for a long time, is because when it comes to reaching the next step and to grow, we don't know what we need within the organization. You know what I mean? It's like, now you need someone who's going to just be dedicating their time to just sending out invoices, chasing them, and making payments. You know what I'm saying? There needs to be somebody who just handles books. There needs to be somebody who just handles images for the company, where it's like creating them from scratch, sizing them when they come from a photographer or graphic designer or whatever. It's like, yeah, the organigram starts growing. People don't even know sometimes what an organigram is, but the organigram has to grow so that all the parts of the company are well taken care of, so that whoever started the company has now grown into a director position, and all they're doing is just throwing instructions around. They're finding money for the company to keep the organigram from growing from just like boom, 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 So yeah, Kaiser Chiefs was exciting. It was a great success. And now we're in the sports scene realm, and that is proving to be a bigger growing and a bigger stepping stone, which, continues to challenge us. And I say to any brand that's out there, come to Bhutan. We'll teach you some things, because it's very important for all of us to learn how to express ourselves in these boardrooms when it comes to losing some of the language that we have from the streets when we get in there, because framing is important. It's like how people were still calling these riots a Zuma thing. It's not a Zuma protest. It stopped being a Zuma protest at some point. People got angry about something else. So when you're framing it as one thing, it's like, no, it's not that. That's when you can keep the street within the street, but when you incorporate, you got to say something else, because when someone is talking about KPIs to you, you got to know what that is. Do we know what KPIs are? But a KPI is something as a business owner you still need to learn, especially when you're growing your business, because you're going, okay, guys, for the quarter, what are our KPIs? For the year, what are our KPIs?
I know, and they're going to take all our time. Don't play
sorry.
Go ahead. So I want to ask something that's obviously maybe a lot of people don't know, or maybe a lot of creators don't know. Break down in a nutshell the you in sports scene, right? So yes. Break down that whole mechanism of sports scene from start to finish in a short nutshell, because I know you can go on for an hour.
Yeah, no. I'll try to be as quick as possible. So with getting clothes into
and
the
how did you get in? Wait, I know in corporate that you have to be listed and all that. So explain all that.
Yes. So they've got to load you as a supplier, and that means all your papers have to be right. You've got to be registered for tax. Your books have got to be in order. You've got to have references. So it's like a CV. It's like you're handing in your CV. But this is different because it's like your bank statements, I think, also have to be submitted. And if you've got to have letters to say that you are good to trade with. You're not going to run away or when you get paid. But also, oh my goodness, this is a very painful thing for creatives, freelancers, and whatever. Guys, always make sure you have cash flow, and cash flow is what keeps you in business. I say this because payment terms get that much more stringent as soon as you get into corporate. There's 15 days, which exists with small businesses. And I'm talking about like SMMEs. Corporate, my man, they'll pay you
90 days.
60 days. And there's things like rebates for marketing that they're going to tell you they need discount for, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, going back, you get loaded as a supplier. That process can take a month to 2 months. Once you've been loaded, right, you've already sold your range, produce your range, land your range. Then your range comes to either your warehousing or into your own space, wherever you're going to distro it. Distro means you're going to have to pack the orders as per each store. and lucky for us, it's just 10 stores for now. If you're doing sports scene, all the stores, man, trust me, you really have got to have your ducks in a row. So they send you the instructions that tell you, we need boxes that are like these dimensions. We need you to label them like this. And you've got to tag everything with their prices. And they send you those instructions too. And then you seal them a certain way.
Wait, I know pricing is a very touchy subject in a big place like sports and stuff.
So when you're selling the range, that's where your cost pricing and your wholesale pricing have to come into play. So when you're sitting with the company that's buying your range, you go, okay, cool, this is what we have, and they go, well, look, these and these and these are the kind of things that we're gonna do, and because they always want to make higher margins, and that's the thing you've got to consider is how far you're gonna go into letting them, butter you down, or rather like, or how can I say, weigh you down. So you've always got to hold your own in there and kind of go, hey man, look, my customers are gonna come in there by the numbers. They're gonna buy this thing. It's gonna sell out. So if you're telling me you wanna, so you've always got to, as a brand, know your worth and what you're able to offer when you're being taken in by those brands. Especially also, like I say, things like rebates and them paying you early. Because if you go, okay, pay me early, they're gonna be like, oh really? Can you give us a discount? And you go, you need a discount. You know what I mean? And this is where cash flow comes in handy. So you always gotta have money to run your company's costs and expenses and overheads for at least half a year when you're ready to play into the big corporate space.
That's a long time. We can go on that for like forever, because I understand how that whole system works. There's also things like when stock is not sold, there's so much other drama.
Exactly.
Before I go to Martin and we soon wrap it up, Kamo, there's something that I've always wanted to find out, man. As a digital marketing person, a social media guru, so talk to me about intellectual property. So how do you balance that with in the world like that? How do you make sure that you know the legal boundaries that you have as a social media guru? One, and two, when you work with corporate, how do you make sure that you protect their intellectual property, your intellectual property, and theirs also? It's a tricky question.
I can tell it's the last one. But like everything else, you've got to have your paperwork in order from the get-go. Especially, it's not just with corporate, but with everyone, with someone that you are doing business with. There's got to be a contract and there's got to be the right paperwork in order. You can literally Google what should be in a social media management contract, and you'll get your answers there. Then you'll structure it with your own terms, with your own prices, and etc. etc. So the most important thing is having your paperwork in order. And as far as protecting IP goes, I'd say that there's things like what do we call it again? When you, like we just did it now with another company, when I want to protect, when NDAs, there's things like NDAs that we've got to sign, and we've got to obviously be in agreement with, and not just with the company itself, but with the influencers as well, because now it would come to me as a social media manager or the campaign manager, and then I have to structure it to the influencers or to the content creators level. Then I put it to their level that, okay guys, this is what we're going to be doing, this is what we're going to be rolling out on specific days, but you cannot tell anyone about this cannot be done, this cannot be done unless the content is already out there. So that's the answer to that difficult question, is basically having your paperwork in order and having the right paperwork at the right time. And that's basically it.
Hey, I can see it was tricky for you. You're thinking there, you're like, hey, this guy, let me out of the bus. Sorry. It's the thing I had to ask that question because I know it's very important. I realized that a lot of so-called new social media people don't understand how important that is. That you are working with corporates and you need to make sure that you respect their property, you know.
Yeah.
Especially in a place of social media where things can fly. Like you can put something up for a second and somebody will have gotten it. So
screenshot, yeah.
screenshot gone, finished, done. Martin, tell me, how do you sustain your brand currently? You know, in the current environment, and also long term, how you make sure that it's sustainable?
Just by staying true to why I started. You know, it goes back to art. I need to be inspired every day. When I'm looking at the young guys, what are the young guys that I taught? What are they doing now to the new landscape? And how am I fitting into that landscape? You know what I'm saying? So it's, for now, it goes back to being consistent with the ideas that I started with and stretching them as far as possible. Because if I look at it, if with anything, it starts as an idea, which is one thought that you manage to grab out of your daily thought traffic. One person has like 77 thoughts. If you manage to catch one thought and stretch it for 77 years, you've won, you know? So with me, it's about stretching the thought. When I go to sleep, it's Josie Mental on my mind. When I wake up in the morning, it's Josie Mental on my mind. The mission is to...
Martin, you're such an like an art person. I can hear your answers, but I want to know, like, step to step, like how you sustain your brand. Like, imagine a young person now decides to do a TTP brand, for you know, but he wants to know how you sustain your brand day to day. You know, how you distributing it. You know, how you promoting it. You know, I touched a bit on the 4 Ps. Just that. Hey, you know, when I'm in your art team, and you're painting pictures like this picture here.
It's staying with the train of what's happening. Like right now, let's look at the environment of the pandemic, the limitations that I have right now. If I could tell you tomorrow, if I say I want fabric, I don't know how I'm gonna get the fabric from my suppliers. You know what I'm saying? So with all those challenges, now I have to deal more on the phone with people and say, Ntwana, I need you to design this for me. I need it by 8 p.m. tomorrow. I'm sending calls to somebody who's doing sewing for me. You know what I'm saying? So the sphere has changed from just being me, one guy deciding I'm printing this today, I'm gonna put it out tomorrow. Now it's me involving as many people as possible. Actually, there's a program. It's just that I don't want to talk about it now because it's gonna jinx it. But the plan is I'm gonna use 5 people, right? 5 people. I might as well just say this now. So what I've been thinking about and trying to put together is actually in action now. I've spoken to 5 reputable designers, right? And I give them authority to expand the brand in their environment in a way, like we let me say, it's like I'm briefing people. I'm saying, okay, I like your brand. Can we do this with Josie Mental for 2 months and then see how best we can fit your brand into my world? So it's still collaborations with as many people as possible. I've worked with more than 100 brands, right? From start, a guy will call me and say, Josie, I heard you're the guy to talk to. I'm like, what do you need? Okay, I've got this word that I need to put out, but I don't even have a logo. So I'll start from designing the logo for the person, helping them with coming up with a range, and that's how I stay in touch with the market. So I create brands, and that force, I've got a force of, if I could put it in a number, let me say, safely, I could say 70 brands that I'm working with right now, but we're not aligned in a way, Hore. tomorrow I could just list them and say judgmental design with who and who and who. But as much as I deal with people into helping me, I'm helping them. That on its own helps me to reach their market every day. Live on it, they reach my skill input, if I could put it that way. So for now, it's more than business structure that the average person thinks when they think in fashion order. Okay, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to do, right? The way my brand is moving forward and has always been moving is fluid. Today we decide, okay, we need to help those guys. This guys are working really hard. How do I get in touch with those guys? How do I connect with them? What do they have for me? You know, so
it's more networking type of thing.
It's always been about networking. Every business is about networking, right? How talented your idea is, I want to sell. But you don't know what comes with selling, because people need to be interested in what you're selling. Number one, what you're selling needs to talk to them and say, okay, I need this in my life, right? So now what I do, and I've always done this, I meet people who think like me or want to think like me, and then I add them to my train of thought and say, look, okay, this won't sell more if it's under Jose Mental. Why don't you put your name on it, and then I design the stuff for you? So it's like Gucci designing stuff for Nike, designing stuff for Reebok, designing for everyone, but nobody knows. At the end of the day, you love Reebok, but Gucci made that Reebok for you. At the end of the day, when Reebok is ready to tell the world, hooray, actually, these guys are the ones that are doing my stuff. So to answer your question, I'm not sure if I'm still going artsy on you.
Are you painting pictures, Baba? When are you painting many pictures? Van Gogh, Martin Van Gogh. So just
that's who Martin is. Like, it will never change.
I noticed, and I like that. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying Martin Van Gogh, just painting them pictures.
That's what I'm selling.
Yes, I like that. And I really like that, because you have to, obviously, as you said, you have to stand by yourself, you know, and you're doing that very well. So to wrap it up, Lerato, something that's very important in branding also is, I think you touched about it a bit, is research, right? Obviously, there's quality and there's quantitative, you know. Talk about why is that important? Because I realize sometimes creatives don't like research. They just think, I mean, I've got this, you know, people just come to me and then I'll do my things. So can you just, as a national, just a closing, explain to me the research? Why is research so important in branding?
You need to understand if your idea is feasible in the market that you're trying to operate in, right? So doing research, whether it's qualitative or quantitative, helps you understand the landscape a bit better. So you need to understand the ages of the people you're trying to speak to. Research helps with that. You need to know their income. Can they afford what you're trying to sell? Because when you put out a brand, the key point is to get it off shelf or get it in the hands of people. It's to sell, right? So you need to understand if it's even an idea worth investing in. And by doing that, by doing your research, you'll get a better understanding of whether or not to go forth with it, or do a bit more research and understand what is more palatable to the audience that you want. And then the locations, research helps you understand where to operate. And yeah, like it just gives you a better painting or a better picture of the world you're trying to get into. With research, you also get an understanding of who to collaborate with, who are the big dogs, who have the big voices, who are the people who are trusted. Then you understand the platforms to use. Are we doing mass production? Is that what people have access to? Malls? Do they have access to those big shops? Like I understand. You understand their thinking and what drives their buying, purchasing decisions rather. So research is very important. You understand the tools, how to speak to people, where to speak to them, when to speak to them. And with social media insights, you get a lot of that understanding. Like, I know you can tell when people are online, how to frame the content that you put out. Do you get what I'm saying? You also understand if Twitter, how you use Twitter to your advantage. Is it just for updates? Is it for launch releases? Do you get what I'm saying? Are you putting out, what type of content are you putting out? And is it consumed in the way that you would like it to consume, that drives purchase, or gets you leads to people buying your product? So it just gives you a better understanding of the framework. I guess, yeah, research is very important.
Yeah, the reason why I asked you about research started with you and branding, so you can break it down. Then I go to Kamo, a social media guru, and say, Kamo, what tools do you guys use to give a person branding about the research that they've done and all the numbers? You know, what tools can you pull in the back end? What are you guys using?
There's a lot of tools, and the beauty about social media is that they are all different and they all give you different results. Each and every platform has got its own analytics. So it would be just, the basic word would be analytics, but they all differ in what they can tell you and how you can use them as far as all the platforms go. So now you can literally check as a brand owner that, okay, I'm on Facebook, I posted this. Okay, firstly, what type of content do my people like interacting with? Is it the videos, or is it the pictures, or it's just the words? Then it tells you. So now you have an idea. Oh, I like pictures. Pictures of what? What picture was it? You can check that also. Okay, it was mostly interacted with. Was it the likes? Was it the comments? Okay, it's comments. What were the comments saying? Okay, people want to know price. So now I know on my next post, I've put up a price so that I don't get comments of people asking for prices, because my past mistake was that I didn't put a price. You can go as far as checking location. Where are my people based? Where are these people that I'm interacting with based? Are they based in Johannesburg? Are they based in Durban? So that now when you're coming back to come and do ads and that type of stuff, you can literally target them. What ages are they? It tells you, the back end of each and every platform tells you what ages are these people. How many people did you reach? What was the time? What's the highest number of reach? So now we know, okay, now we post at 9 a.m. every morning. We know that our people, they just got to work at that time. They are really, really interacting at 9 o'clock. Okay, they interact with this, they interact with this. So that's how now we're going to take all this from the back end of social media, then present it to the person that, okay, check, this is how people are interacting with your brand. This is how you can make it better. This is what you need to do. This is where you need to do it. So it basically just answers all that when, how, where, how, who, etc., questions.
What are the tools, man? You just said there's a lot of tools. Name a few so that people can know, man. What's wrong with you?
It's analytics. Each and every platform has analytics.
Yeah, but there's different. There's different ones you can actually buy. There's different ones you can actually use. You know.
You see, now you're making it difficult, because you are trying to make it as cheap as possible for the people you want them to buy, because Facebook has got Facebook analytics, Twitter has got Twitter analytics. All you gotta do, if you've got a page, it only works. You can only work with analytics when you've got a page. But Twitter, you can use Twitter analytics with your profile. So all you do is hit tweet activity. Under your tweet, you just hit tweet activity, view tweet activity, and then it'll show you all these things that we are talking about. But as far as buying goes, if someone wants to buy out there, there's a lot that they could buy into. I mean, there's Google Analytics, which you can sign up to, and then now you connect all your platforms to Google Analytics, but now you're gonna pay for this. It's called Google Analytics, and then now it will tell you everything that you've connected. You connect all your socials there, you connect your website, and then it can literally tell you everything. How many people went to the website? What page did they view in the website? On what, how much time they spent on the website? So you can literally, okay, Now people are going to the my orders or what page, then you know where to put your ads, you know where to target them as far as that goes. Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, I had to ask that question. How are you running away from such? It's important. You know, not everybody has your knowledge. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, but we are trying to make it cheap. We are trying to make it easy and cheap. So if you are going to be starting out, let's make it cheap and easy. So let people check on Facebook instead of them going to buy.
That's true. That's true. I like that. I was just making sure that people know that you can also buy just the upgraded one, the popular ones. But just as to wrap up, I want to ask the cheesy question because obviously it's still important. What advice would you give young creatives? I think I'll start with the youngest one, Kamo. Yeah, so you can go around the table. Just what advice would you give a young creatives? What, especially now, because things are changing very quickly.
Yeah.
And you can also give your social handles at the end.
All right, cool. Also, my advice would be very, very simple. I'd just say stay relevant and keep up to date with trends. That's just as simple as I'm going to make it, because you being up to date means that you are relevant, and you keeping up to date means that you know what to do, when to do it, you know what your competition is doing and what you can do to make that better. So it's as easy as that. And you can find me on social media across all platforms. It's at Life of Kamo.
Word.
Oslerato?
I had to go on mute there. My most important or key advice, right, will be to look at your brand whenever you're starting it, or if you already got an established brand, you'll understand this. Having a brand is much like having to put out a new car, right? And the best way to approach it would not be to start with the exterior. It's to have an engine that runs. And the engine that runs when it comes to branding is strategy. So understand why you exist, understand what you're trying to achieve, plan, research, collaborate, show up and deliver. That's my advice. And consistently do that, then you'll yield the results that you want. That's it. Get the engine running, keep it clean, do maintenance. That's it.
That's a dope one, man. What's your handle? People need to follow you.
My handle is at Lerato_Lefafa on Instagram, which happens to be my biggest platform. And on there, I talk about travel and wellness. I ask a lot of difficult questions when it comes to wellness, because a lot of people don't understand that being you, authentically you, is where it all starts. So I try and challenge people in their thinking quite a lot through my stories and engagement. And then I fluff it up with the travel stuff, which is the pretty exterior of a car. But the meat is in the difficult conversations that I have. And on the other platforms, I'm just at Lerato Lefafa.
Nice. Ayanda?
Yeah. Okay. When did the messages to young people, nah? Or any business owner?
Young creatives, man. Young
creatives. Yeah, look, I think more than anything, for the younger creatives, the one thing I can say is have a plan that'll sustain you at least over 10 years, because when the money comes and you do get financing, what do you do with it? Or when your business is booming, how are you going to spend that money? Because there's always this thing of, because when we get into business, we always get into it hungry, right? And so when you get the money, you can get confused, knowing that the money's gotta come back. To go and search, propose, pitch for money. It turns out there's a lot of money that we're not going out there and pitching for, especially from our government. We need to take them to task, because what we're doing is a very, very important thing. Being a creative in South Africa, particularly in these times, is a it's a scarcity, but very, very needed thing, because we're the ones that capture and express the times as they unfold. If you look towards any other industry, it is creativity that does that. So music, fashion, art, film, photography, we're always making sure that we're expressing what the world is going through in that time. So let's take our government to task. If you look around the world, people are being subsidized as creatives. I don't know why in South Africa it's such a hard thing. Abu Alf Kumalo had to suffer through their careers, especially in their later years. That's just obviously one person, but I mean, as the creative industry. Two, passion. Hey man, the minute this thing dips, find a way to take it up again, because that's what will sustain you any given time. When your passion dwindles, find a way to energize yourself. Why will your passion dwindle? Is because the money at some point will not be enough to keep or pay or run your business, or you've pitched 1,000 million times and you're not getting the money that you thought you will get because someone else next to you, or a business which you thought wasn't supposed to get the money, is getting the money. And that's just how the ice or the game rolls, and you've got to continue. Remember why you got into it, because passion is what will keep you there. Yeah. And I guess also the most cheesiest one is stay authentic to yourself, because when you do, eventually you will rise to the top, because all the other ones will start falling away. There's a reason why Jay-Z or Bhutan or Martin or Back to the City is where it is. All those things are where they are, because there's a lane that we stuck to. It's being authentic to who or what we had promised and said we were going to do, and the vision, the mission stayed the same, and you just kept on. And I think Martin said it best, is that every time you wake up, Josie Mental, that one thing that you decided to pull out of the 75, and you're going to go with it, stick to that, and that thing will yield the results. Just stick to it, have the plan, and the plan, again, will remind you why you got into this thing. So, yeah. Those are my words.
Handle, man. Don't forget the handle.
Oh, yo, check it out.
You're not on ENCA.
I'm not what? Hey, my IG hand is kind of difficult, but anyway, let's go. Aquarian Ox on IG. Amayanda Njanya Shabalala on Facebook. I don't really use Twitter that much, eh? Yeah. Just those two. We're good.
And the
maybe I might
one?
just on TikTok. See me do this.
And the Bhutan one?
Oh yeah, for sure. Bhutan _official on all of them. Bhutan official.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
We had to
Instagram.
close with an...
Oh no. Online store. Bhutan.co.za/shop. Delivery 3 to 5 working days. Yeah.
Done. We had to close the session with an OG, man. You see how I did it. I start with the young one. I closed with an OG. Yo,
yes,
man.
Sir. Yes, sir. I'm
words to the young creatives.
Yeah, man. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you guys for inviting me into the space so I can share my knowledge and my perspectives on everything, My advice to young creatives is so much advice, but in a nutshell, create with purpose, right? Like the only thing that separates us as artists from the ordinary guy is purpose. Even a guy who's not an artist can make money. Only thing that sets us apart from the rest of the world is our purpose. So, as an artist, we shape the world as we go, right? So, we fit in this whole puzzle that we call life, reality that we're exposed to, because everything around us is art, the bottle you drink from, somebody created that. So stay in the line of creating with purpose. Do not just create for the sake of creation, and not think this is going to be important in the world one day. Nothing. So create with purpose. I'm just going to leave it there. Create with purpose.
That's dope, man. What's your handle, man?
At Josie Mental 1 on Instagram, because there's so many Josie Mentals out there, but there's only one true Josie Mental. So it's always at Josie Mental 1. On Facebook, it's Josie Mental straight, nothing else, just Josie Mental. And my personal profile on Facebook, Martin Josie Mental Mashats.
There we go, man. Thank you so much for everybody that came through. I also learned a lot. I've been a studier of a lot of things, but today I learned so much from all you guys. So thank you so much. Let's hope people can learn. I hope people can grow. I hope there will be more creatives coming out, because if there's more creatives, there's more jobs and there's dope things coming out, and support local brands. That's all I gotta say.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very important. Support local brands, because if you support local brands, you're creating more jobs. So yeah.
100.
I'm
Thank you.
Salute. Nice to meet everybody.
Yo.